things I could perhaps mention that we've tried which work for us. So one of the things that we tried, and this is something we became very popular during the pandemic. We started something called a Saksham series, which is a morning call. It's like a webinar. Anybody can join, whoever wants to. And there are themes and series. So it keeps happening. So one day it could be on, say, on some product. It could be tomorrow on, say, persistency. Day after it could be on some, anything to do with the business. I mean, that a manager needs or an employee needs to do his or her job better. So that became popular because it fits in with 2-3 things. One, it's a need-based. Everybody does it. So we also target the Saksham series in a sense based on, for example, if we find that there is a group of people who are low on a particular parameter, they need some support on this area. They're making errors, for example. They lack certain basic, say, underwriting knowledge, and these are errors and therefore becoming re-triggers. We can isolate them and we can do a series only for them. So data helps us in also making training is made real time, and digital has allowed it to be done for the entire group of people across the country rather than doing it. Otherwise, the model would have been physically in each location, and sometimes you don't have minimum numbers to do it. So what digital has done is shaken some of our mindset about embracing doing these programs over Teams and webinars, and also we've seen uptick in e-learning programs because during the pandemic you also offered a large number of online programs through Coursera, LinkedIn Learning for the entire managerial hierarchy. And I was very surprised to find the uptick that I saw, because prior to this, whenever we had e-learning never worked, right? Nobody would do it. So what was very welcome, it's not that everybody does it, but the uptick has been remarkable. So I think that's here to stay. So that gives me a lot of confidence. And and another thing that we do, so the Saksham series, which are more bite-sized, scalable, real-time, more need-based, all the things that digital allows you to do has worked very well for us. The second thing I think which works for us is also we have a competency model for the entire management population, right? We call it the excellence model, and there are a set of behaviors that we want. So linked to these behaviors, every 2 to 3 years we do what are called, we did it prior to the pandemic actually, digital assessments to help get a feedback on where you stand on each of these. And today you get, when I first started, assessment centers would be a 5-day program, spent over a lot of past effort, money. Then of course we collapsed it to 1 day, 1.5 day. But again, now online assessments you can do in, in much shorter time without having need for travel and all that. And there are also tools to do it, and you can do some of it at your time and some of it with an assessor. So it's very, very time effective in a sense. So that is something we have been doing, and that has definitely translated as every organization does, the individual development plans. And then obviously one residual issue that is there, which I'm hoping that we will plug in this year through an app-based model, is that fine, the development plan gets done, but what do you do with it? So the last mile is ultimately learning is your personal responsibility, right? And beyond a point, HR cannot also be a nanny and keep nagging you and saying, are you doing it? So we try to now create a digital app with another partner, which will keep you reminders. So it's more self-regulation. It's like a Fitbit. If you haven't gone out for a walk, or it's just a timer which tells you. So we'll see whether that nudge works for people who are not doing it. So to that extent, that is one part. And so I think these are some of the things we are experimenting with. And the last thing I want to add also here is that part of the training, what I've realized from the pandemic, and I think it may be relevant, because people have gone through a lot and it's not easy. I think I want to add the point on well-being. We cannot be performing at our best unless we are there in body and mind. And body and mind means our physical fitness, our mental health, so which means sleep, nutrition, diet, all of this has to be effective, because everything that we do requires energy, and unless you are physically and mentally fully there, your ability to bring your best to work also gets impacted. So part of the things, I definitely believe in it, and one of the things we are therefore rolling out for the organization is, and we did it during the pandemic to support but now we want to do it on an ongoing basis, is to support employees with also all kinds of tools. Not just support. If you have, for example, you need counseling support, you can call up a telecounselor, but also interventions which help you manage your personal well-being, financial well-being, emotional and physical well-being, because that is all effective ingredient. And I'm realizing that people don't have, while the resources are plenty, it needs a structure for people to systematically do it. And I think organizations have a responsibility, because ultimately I'm seeing it from the lens of performance. So it's a good question, why should even HR get into it? Not get into it. It's a personal thing. But I fundamentally believe, and the organization, we believe that ultimately, if you see from the lens of performance, without well-being, you cannot be productive, right? It's like absenteeism versus in the manufacturing era. So we are also working on that part of it, and I think that's something to bring in. So on the coaching side, just to wrap up, yes, the My Coach has been very effective for us, but I will not say that is the panacea. I will say there is a role for physical, on-the-job coaching, role-playing, all of that has to be integrated. And I am definitely of the belief that while my belief in this is as an operating manager, I'm saying, I have found it very hard as an operating manager, despite, many of us in ICICI Prudential have been for many, many, many years. But we found transmission losses with new employees. We've found transmission losses when things change in a digital medium. So the example I like to quote here is when you are on the floor, you can call everybody on a huddle and you explain it. I'll tell you what is the missing link. The missing link is if you haven't understood, you can just lean over to your colleague and say, hey, what was that point? What missed out? To do it, even if you create water cooler kind of thing, nobody wants to accept that they don't know in a digital medium sort of thing. It's one thing to just check in with saying, I didn't understand, could you explain this to me? Or you feel you can also, as a leader or a manager, figure out by looking and making eye contact, the person has not fully understood. So you check in with the person. In a digital medium, it's very difficult to make eye contact and you don't know whether who's understood, who's not understood. So I've seen a lot of transmission loss. I have seen gaps in performance. So I am certainly of the votary that work from home or remote working is fine for people who are fully proficient, who are very independent and can self-manage themselves. But for those who are not at that level, and especially if they're working in teams where they need to collaborate with each other, or they're new to the organization and they're not proficient yet in that job, they need that support. And I think nothing to replace the physical environment to help support that bit. So remote working can be an exception more than the rule. And I think, like everything, again, it will coexist, but I think organizations would see the benefit. And again, if I go back to customers, if customers want to meet face-to-face, the branches will be open. Customers will come and meet you. Customers may not want to be serviced digitally. So that part has to be also kept in mind. So that's it from my side. Thank you.